Let me ask you something honest. Do you ever lie awake at night doing mental math, calculating how many more years until you can afford that down payment, or wondering if you'll ever stop living paycheck to paycheck? And here's the really frustrating part. People who seem to make money effortlessly. They're not smarter than you. They don't work harder. Some of them actually seem kind of average, so what's the difference? Here's what nobody wants to hear. The biggest obstacle between you and wealth isn't your boss, your degree, your parents' bank account, or even the economy. It's the invisible programming running in your head right now. And every single day you ignore it, you're actively choosing to stay exactly where you are. This video is going to make you uncomfortable, but if you stick with me, I'm going to show you exactly how your own mind is sabotaging your wealth and, more importantly, how to fix it. Introduction: I'm going to be straight with you. This isn't another hustle harder video, and I'm not going to sell you some fantasy about manifestation or positive thinking magically filling your bank account. That's not how this works. What we're going to talk about today is the actual psychology behind wealth, the research-backed patterns that separate people who build financial freedom from people who stay stuck no matter how hard they work. And look, this isn't about morality. Poor people aren't less worthy. Rich people aren't better humans, but there are specific mental frameworks that create completely different financial realities. Here's what you're going to learn in the next 25 minutes. First, we'll explore the scarcity mindset that's probably running 90% of your financial decisions without you even knowing it. Then we'll dig into the childhood programming that set your financial thermostat and why you keep self-destructing every time you get close to exceeding it. We'll talk about why you're terrified of success, how instant gratification is stealing your future, and why your current identity is literally repelling money. By the end, you'll have a clear map of the mental barriers keeping you poor and specific tools to dismantle them. Ready? Let's go. Section 1. The Scarcity Vs. Abundance Mindset, the invisible filter. Here's the thing about mindset: it's not some woo-woo concept. Your mindset is literally a filter that determines what opportunities you can even see. Let me explain. Two people walk down the same street. One person with a scarcity mindset sees problems everywhere. Parking is expensive. Coffee costs too much. Rent is impossible. The other person with an abundance mindset sees the exact same street differently. There's demand for parking solutions. People will pay premium prices for good coffee. High rents mean valuable real estate. Same street, completely different worlds. Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck's research showed that people with a scarcity mindset literally have a different neural response to challenges. When faced with a setback, their brains go into threat mode: fight, flight, or freeze. But people with an abundance mindset, their brains activate the problem-solving centers. They see obstacles as puzzles, not dead ends. The scarcity loop: here's how scarcity thinking keeps you trapped. You believe money is limited, so you hoard what little you have. You never invest in yourself. No courses, no coaching, no risks, because spending money feels dangerous. So you stay stuck with the same skills and the same opportunities, which means you keep earning the same amount, which proves that money is scarce. See the loop? Meanwhile, someone with abundance thinking says, if I invest $1,000 in learning this skill, I could increase my income by $20,000 this year. They spend money to make money. They take calculated risks, and weirdly enough, opportunities seem to find them. You might be thinking, easy to have an abundance mindset when you already have money, and yeah, there's some truth there. But here's what the research actually shows. Abundance mindset comes first. It's not a luxury of being rich, it's the prerequisite for getting rich. Action step: here's your first homework. For the next week, catch yourself in scarcity thinking. When you say, I can't afford that, replace it with, how could I afford that? Or what would I need to do to make this possible? It sounds simple, but this tiny reframe literally rewires your brain to look for opportunities instead of limitations. Section 2. Your childhood financial thermostat, the money stories you inherited. Now, let's talk about something that's probably running your entire financial life without your permission. The money beliefs you absorbed before you were 7 years old. Here's how it works. Before you could think critically, you were like a sponge, absorbing everything around you. If you grew up hearing money doesn't grow on trees, or rich people are greedy, or we can't afford that, those aren't just phrases. They became your unconscious operating system. Psychologists call this your financial thermostat, the maximum level of wealth you unconsciously believe you deserve or can handle. And here's the kicker. Whenever you start to exceed that level, your subconscious will sabotage you to bring you back down to your set point. Real-world example: I knew someone who grew up in a household where money was always tight. His parents fought about bills constantly. He internalized the belief that having money causes problems. Fast forward 20 years, every time he got a raise or a bonus, within 3 months something would happen. Unexpected car repairs, impulsive purchases, bad investments. He was unconsciously destroying his own success because his nervous system associated money with conflict and stress. Harv Eker wrote about this in Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. He found that most people have an unconscious money blueprint that determines their financial ceiling. You can learn all the strategies in the world, but if your thermostat is set to $50,000 a year, you'll find a way to stay there. The self-sabotage pattern. This is why lottery winners often go broke. It's not about the money, it's that their identity and thermostat never caught up to their bank account. They weren't ready to be wealthy, so they unconsciously made decisions to return to familiar territory. Action step: ask yourself, what did I learn about money growing up? What did my parents say about rich people, about poor people? Write down every money belief you can remember hearing. Then ask, is this actually true, or is this just programming? Most of your financial limitations aren't real. They're just inherited stories you never questioned. Section 3. The fear of success and self-sabotage. Why you're afraid to win. Here's a psychological paradox that sounds ridiculous until you realize it's running your life. You're more afraid of success than failure. I know. You're thinking, that's insane, I want success. But let me ask you this, have you ever been on the edge of a breakthrough and then suddenly lost motivation, started making careless mistakes, gotten too busy to follow through? That's not laziness. That's fear. Psychologist Gay Hendricks calls this the upper limit problem. Basically, each of us has an unconscious ceiling for how much success, happiness, or wealth we believe we can handle. When we approach that ceiling, we experience anxiety and unconsciously sabotage ourselves to return to our comfort zone. Why success feels dangerous. Success is scary for a bunch of reasons most people never admit. Identity death. If you've spent your whole life as the struggling artist or the person who can't catch a break, what happens to your identity when you succeed? Who are you if you're not the underdog anymore? Relationship fears. Will your friends resent you? Will your family treat you differently? Research shows that one of the biggest unconscious fears around wealth is social isolation. We're tribal creatures. We'd rather stay broke with our tribe than be wealthy and alone. Responsibility and visibility. Success means more eyes on you, more expectations, more responsibility. For many people, staying small feels safer than standing out. The procrastination pattern. This is why people procrastinate on the exact things that would change their lives. You know you should start that business, ask for that raise, launch that project, but you don't. And it's not because you're lazy, it's because part of you knows that success would require you to become someone different. And change is terrifying. Action step: get brutally honest with yourself. What would you actually have to give up if you became wealthy? Would you lose your identity as the struggling underdog? Would your friends feel threatened? Would you have to admit your parents were wrong about money? Write it down. Because you can't fight fears you won't acknowledge. Then ask, are these fears real, or are they just protective stories your brain invented to keep you comfortable? Section 4. The Delayed Gratification Gap. The marshmallow test and your bank account. You've probably heard of the famous marshmallow test. Researchers gave kids one marshmallow and said, you can eat this now, or if you wait 15 minutes, you can have 2 marshmallows. They tracked those kids for decades. The results: the kids who could delay gratification had higher SAT scores, better health, lower addiction rates, and significantly higher income as adults. That one childhood trait predicted their entire financial trajectory. Here's why this matters. Every financial decision is a battle between your present self and your future self. Your present self wants the new phone, the fancy dinner, the weekend trip. Your future self wants the investment account, the emergency fund, the compound interest. Poor people habitually choose present pleasure. Wealthy people habitually choose future freedom. The dopamine trap in our modern world makes this harder than ever. We live in an instant gratification economy. One-click purchases, same-day delivery, buy now, pay later. Every system is designed to exploit your present bias and make delayed gratification feel impossible. Your brain's dopamine system is literally being hijacked. You get a little hit of pleasure from every purchase, every swipe, every treat yourself moment. But that pleasure fades instantly, leaving you right back where you started, except now you're poorer. The compound interest of habits. Here's what most people don't understand. Small daily choices compound just like money does. That $6 coffee every morning, that's $2,190 a year. Over 20 years, if you invested that instead at 8% returns, that's over $100,000. I'm not saying never buy coffee. I'm saying most people are unconsciously choosing present pleasure without ever calculating the future cost. They're literally buying lattes with their retirement. Action step: try this experiment. Before any non-essential purchase, pause for 48 hours. Just wait. Don't moralize it. Don't feel guilty. Just wait. you'll find that about 60% of the time the urge completely disappears. That's not willpower. That's just letting the dopamine spike pass. And here's the key. Take the money you would have spent and immediately transfer it to an investment account. Make choosing your future self just as easy as choosing your present self. Section 5. Your financial identity, who you think you are. Here's a mind-bending truth. You will never consistently earn more than your identity can support. What do I mean by that? Your identity is the story you tell about who you are. I'm not good with money. I'm a creative person, not a business person. I'm just not lucky. Rich people are different from me. Every one of those statements is an identity, and identities are incredibly powerful because your brain will do whatever it takes to prove your identity correct. If you believe you're not good with money, you'll unconsciously make bad financial decisions to validate that belief. It's not logical. It's just how human psychology works. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits. He says the most effective way to change behavior isn't to focus on goals, it's to focus on identity. Don't say, I want to be wealthy. Say, I am someone who builds wealth, not I should save money, but I am a saver. The language shift. Listen to how you talk about money for one day. Notice the phrases you use. I could never afford that. Money just slips through my fingers. I'm terrible at investing. I always end up broke. Those aren't neutral observations. Those are identity statements. And every time you say them, you're reinforcing the neural pathways that keep you stuck. Wealthy people use different language. They say, how can I afford that? I'm getting better at managing money. I'm learning about investing. I'm building my wealth. Same person. Same circumstances. Completely different identity. Completely different outcome. The identity tax. Here's something nobody talks about. Staying true to a broke identity has a massive cost. Every opportunity you don't take because that's not who I am. Every risk you don't pursue because people like me don't do that. That's the identity tax, and it's expensive. You might have grown up in a family that valued struggle, that romanticized being working class, that looked down on wealthy people. And there's beauty in those values. But if your identity is still anchored to struggle, you'll unconsciously choose struggle even when freedom is available. Action step. Complete this sentence 20 different ways. I am someone who. How many of those statements support wealth? How many block it? Then consciously choose new identity statements and repeat them daily. Not as affirmations, as decisions about who you're becoming. I am someone who invests wisely. I am someone who creates value. I am someone who makes money work for me. Your brain will eventually believe what you consistently tell it. Section 6. The comparison trap. The thief of joy. Theodore Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy, but it's also the thief of wealth. Here's how this plays out. You scroll Instagram and see someone's highlight reel, the car, the vacation, the designer outfit. Your brain immediately goes into comparison mode. You feel inadequate. You feel behind. And then you make a decision that seems to solve that feeling. You spend money you don't have on things you don't need to impress people you don't even like. Psychologists call this relative deprivation. You're not actually poor, but compared to the curated lives you see online, you feel poor. And that feeling drives incredibly destructive financial behavior. The hedonic treadmill. Here's the brutal truth about comparison. It never ends, ever. No matter how much you earn, there will always be someone with more. If you make $50,000, you'll compare yourself to people making $100,000. If you make $100,000, you'll compare yourself to people making $500,000. Researchers call this the hedonic treadmill. You work hard to upgrade your life. You get a temporary happiness boost. Then you adapt to the new normal and want more. The finish line keeps moving. You're running faster and faster, but never actually arriving. Meanwhile, you're spending your entire life chasing someone else's definition of success instead of building your version of wealthy. The Joneses are broke. Here's something that might help. Most of the people you're comparing yourself to are broke too. That neighbor with the new BMW probably has a 5-year loan at 7% interest. The colleague with the designer wardrobe probably has credit card debt they'll never pay off. Thomas Stanley's research in The Millionaire Next Door found that actual millionaires live below their means. They drive used cars. They live in modest houses. They don't look wealthy because they'd rather be wealthy than look wealthy. The people flaunting wealth are usually the ones who don't actually have it. Action step. Do a social media audit. Unfollow accounts that make you feel inadequate or trigger spending urges. I'm serious. Your mental environment shapes your financial reality. If you're constantly exposed to luxury and excess, you'll unconsciously try to match that standard. Instead, follow people who share your actual values around money. People who talk about financial freedom, not financial flexing. Section 7. Risk tolerance and the fear of failure. Playing not to lose. Here's the final psychological barrier. Your relationship with risk. Most people approach money with a playing not to lose mentality. They're so terrified of making a mistake that they don't make any moves at all. They keep money in savings accounts earning 0.5% interest, while inflation eats away 3% of their purchasing power every year. They stay in jobs they hate because quitting feels risky. They never invest because what if the market crashes? But here's the thing about risk. Not taking risks is actually the riskiest strategy of all. Behavioral economists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky discovered something called loss aversion. Basically, humans feel the pain of losing money about twice as intensely as the pleasure of gaining it. This makes us irrationally conservative. We'll do anything to avoid loss, even if it means missing massive opportunities for gain. The failure mindset wealthy people have a completely different relationship with failure. They see failure as data, not identity. They try things, some work, some don't, and they adjust. Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times before inventing the light bulb. He didn't see 10,000 failures, he saw 10,000 lessons. But if you grew up in an environment where mistakes were punished, where failure was shameful, where you had to be perfect, then risk feels existentially dangerous. One wrong move and your entire self-worth crumbles, so you play it safe. You stay comfortable, and you stay broke. Calculated risk versus reckless risk now. I'm not saying go bet your life savings on cryptocurrency. There's a massive difference between calculated risk and stupid risk. Calculated risk means doing research, starting small, having a backup plan, learning from people who have succeeded. Stupid risk means YOLOing into something you don't understand because it might make you rich quick. Wealthy people take calculated risks constantly. They invest in themselves, they start businesses, they change careers, they move cities, they bet on their own potential. And yes, sometimes they fail, but they don't let that stop them from trying again. Action step: identify one calculated risk you've been avoiding out of fear. Not a reckless gamble, a smart bet on yourself. Maybe it's asking for a raise. Maybe it's starting a side business. Maybe it's investing in a skill that could 10x your income. Then ask yourself, what's the real worst-case scenario? Usually, it's not nearly as catastrophic as your brain is telling you. And what's the best-case scenario? Is staying exactly where you are really safer than trying? Conclusion: the real conversation. All right, let's bring this home. If you've made it this far, you're probably feeling a little uncomfortable. Good. That discomfort is the sound of old programming cracking. Everything I've just told you challenges the comfortable stories you've been telling yourself about why you're not where you want to be financially. But here's what I need you to understand. Your current financial situation is not permanent. It's not destiny. It's just the logical outcome of the mental programming you've been running. You learned scarcity thinking, you can learn abundance thinking. You inherited limiting beliefs, you can install empowering beliefs. You developed a broke identity, you can build a wealthy identity. It's not about morality, none of this makes you a bad person. You're not lazy, you're not broken. You're just operating with software that was installed when you were too young to question it. Most people never even realize they have this programming, let alone take steps to change it. But you're here, you're watching this. That means something in you is ready for a different outcome. The choice point: here's your choice point. You can close this video and go back to your normal life. Back to the same thoughts, same habits, same financial results. There's no judgment there. Comfort is seductive. Or you can decide that today is the day you start changing the programming. Not tomorrow, not when you have more money, not when circumstances are perfect. Today. Because here's the truth about mindset shifts. They don't happen in some dramatic moment of enlightenment. They happen in small, daily decisions. The decision to question a limiting belief. The decision to delay gratification. The decision to invest in yourself even when it feels scary. Wealth isn't built in a day, but it's built daily. Your next step: take one action from this video. Just one. Maybe it's the 48-hour delay before purchases. Maybe it's rewriting your money identity. Maybe it's taking that calculated risk you've been avoiding. One action, then another, then another. That's how you rewire a brain. That's how you build wealth. If this video helped you see something about yourself that you couldn't see before, do me a favor, hit that like button. It helps this message reach more people who need to hear it. And if you know someone who's stuck in the same mental traps we talked about today, someone who's working hard but not getting ahead, share this with them. Sometimes the most valuable gift you can give someone is showing them what's possible. Finally, if you want more content on wealth psychology, mindset shifts, and building financial freedom without the BS, subscribe to this channel. I post new videos every week that'll challenge you, push you, and give you the tools to actually change your financial reality. Remember, your mindset created your current financial situation. A new mindset will create a new one. Now go do the work.